Hello and welcome to the 2018 Meet the Candidates, a voter education program sponsored by the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Today I'm joined by Kayden Fox, a local city council candidate. Kayden, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure.
Kayden, why don't you start by introducing yourself to our viewers and also tell us why you chose to run for city council.
Okay. Well, you covered the basics. I'm Kayden Fox and I'm running for city council. I've lived here for about 4 years with my family, wife and daughter. She goes to Sunpath, and my wife has really been wanting to get involved in the community. So this looked like an opportunity, and as to why I did, I've had a career with enterprise troubleshooting, and I work with Dell, and I've actually become one of their top agents in troubleshooting and solving complex problems in complex systems. So I figured that would be a really good way to use my skills that have made me professionally successful and transition that into a way I could turn around and help the community myself.
Cool. The first question. Investors are pulling out of projects in our community, citing an instability and unpredictability with city politics. How do we restore predictability and stability so that investors feel confident putting their money in projects right here?
That is a variegated question. It depends on how you define we. Because if we is the voters, they have to research the candidates, and they have to talk to each other, and they have to get involved if they feel like hosting volunteering events, door knocking, and then just voting is the important part. So that's what the voters can do. And then if you mean we, as in the chamber, that means pretty much the same thing, finding candidates and reading about the platforms and doing exactly what you're doing essentially is giving people a platform to be informed. And then if by we you mean city council, with that aspect really, all we can do is go forward with a steady hand, and there's been a lot of wavering, and I want to say just kind of take the personal aspects, the ideology, the ego out of it, and just, this is what the rules say, this is what city staff says. I mean, they are the experts. They are consummate career professionals. They know the stuff inside and out. It's not city council's role to second guess them or babysit them. It's to take, trust but verify. It's to take in what they say and combine that with what other people say and what the voters want and what businesses want, and try to make a sensible image of the future and not just go, today I feel this way and today I feel this way. Part of that steadiness is having an even keel and just sticking to a plan.
Great, thank you. The next question. Define tax increment financing for our audience and our voters.
Essentially, tax increment financing is a way of capturing future tax growth to pay for present improvements. So if you have a plot of land that has a tax rate like this, it's not getting you anything. But if you can get a little funding to get the tax rate like this, well then you can capture this increase to actually pay back the loan that the developer takes out to pay for those improvements.
So then a follow-up question to that for our audience would be, when does a tax increment financing work?
Well, insofar as I'm aware, always, if you're speaking specifically to how Shakopee's done it. Our regulations are actually tighter than state law, and Minnesota's state laws as a rule are tighter than other states. I know there's been a lot of discussion about Iowa and California and other places that do this, but they were a lot more cavalier in their application and they'd use it for extraneous things. We're strictly only able to use it for civic improvements, like if they touch waterways, or not waterways, roadways or waterworks, or having to expand utilities in some way like that. And then there's issues like soil remediation, where even right now we've got 2 sites that are former dumps, and downtown there's an issue with bedrock, where we want to put this apartment complex in, but we want parking because downtown needs parking. So to do that, they have to have a 2-layer parking garage, and we have a lot of bedrock down here, so that makes it a bit more expensive to develop. So we're left with, well, do we want to not develop this land, or do we want to let the developer take out a loan and then pay back that loan with their own increase in taxes that they make possible by making the project go forward? And it's a great thing to do too, because in instances like Canterbury, there's 83 and the other roadways that have to be improved. So to do that, and that's part of the city and county's responsibility, to do that without using TIF financing, they'd have to raise taxes, pay for the roads, and then go to Canterbury and let them do their thing. This way, by using TIF, we actually let them hold the burden of the roads up front, and then they get paid back through their own investment in Shakopee.
Thank you. The next question. As the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce, we are unapologetically pro-Shakopee and pro-business. How is your agenda pro-business, and how does that differ from your opponents?
Well, I honestly can't say because I haven't seen their videos. But I mean, it's just making sense. Like I said earlier, we have to look at what the law says, look at what businesses want, and look at what the people want. It's a pie that everyone needs a slice of, so we can't favor anyone. But being pro-business means understanding that things like TIF are a tool, and they're an important tool, but they're not to be overused. And like I said, with the rules in place around TIF, it's hard for us to intentionally overuse them or abuse them, but all the same, we don't want to, oh, you get a TIF and you get a TIF. We don't want to have an Oprah moment or anything like that.
Next question. What cities do you think are doing a good job, and what lessons can be learned from them?
Actually, on the subject of TIF, the Mall of America was built by TIF in Bloomington back in like 92 or whatever it was, and that actually just expired, and it's put a whole bunch of money not only in their pockets, but there's an agreement in the 7 Metro County area. It's kind of a profit sharing thing, and so now that kind of actually comes to help us because Scott County is a part of that. I mean, Bloomington's obviously a really good, because that was farmland too, and people showed up and they needed things to do. Edina is similarly, excuse me, Edina is in a great position because I mean, they've got a lake downtown. One of my favorite places to go in the metro area is Centennial Parks, and they've got a lake and it's got seating and it's got fish and swings and walking trails and businesses. So I mean, you can stop and get pizza, walk around the lake, and then if you live there, because there's housing on the other side, it's this wonderful all-in-one stop. And I really think Shakopee could do something like that with our waterfront. And then there's Eden Prairie, which again has made an investment in business, and it elevated the quality of life. And I tried to look statewide actually at this question, and it seemed that the commonality with all of the good places versus all of the not so good places is the good places made an effort to draw in business and have jobs for people, and then those jobs brought people to live there and they were paid good wages, and that allowed the tax base to expand, and then with that tax base expansion they could do things like pay for walking trails and nice waterfronts, and it elevated the whole quality of life, and education went up, and so all of these things, they make businesses happy, they make the kids smart, and they raise the quality of life. It's a very simple trifecta to go for, but I mean, you look at towns that don't do that, like North Minneapolis doesn't have the best set of job options, and Brooklyn Center kind of missed the boat on that too. And then you have the smaller communities that just want to stay small, they don't attract big businesses, and they just kind of fade into the past.
And the final question, what has been your greatest learning opportunity in life to date?
I've actually been thinking about this a lot in my life in general, and I don't think, if you define learning opportunity as an insular event like I became a father, or bought my first house, or static things like that were a day, but as a person I am the aggregation of every event in my life. So you can't, it's really hard to say which one day made me who I am. But I would say really overall, the greatest opportunities in my life have stemmed from a realization that the more problems I can make my own fault, the better chances I have of leading a successful life. Because if you say, well, I walked into the street and a car ran my foot over, and it was the car's fault. Well, maybe if I would have looked both ways and not walked into traffic, that wouldn't have happened. So if I make it my fault, I can address my personal failures, make myself a better person, make myself more competent to handle other struggles. And it got me out of poverty, and it got me out of a trailer, and it got me to being one of the top engineers for the leading hardware provider in their sector. So, I mean, if you really take an honest look at yourself and say, I'm not doing this right, I need to do better for myself, and you make that commitment, you become a better person. Well, I mean, I'd like to think I've become a better person, because I'm stepping up and running for office because I think I've made the investments in myself that allow me to see a bigger picture and hopefully help and make things better.
Great. Well, thank you again, Kayden Fox, for your time, and thanks for watching the 2018 Meet the Candidates.